Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with the Imperialist, Charles Coulombe.
Imperialist.
Yes.
Imperialist.
Quite clearly.
So you say I support empire.
Yeah. Well, good empires.
Well, wait. Haven't we just been torrentially overwhelmed like a broken sewage pipe full of banter from different organizations yapping about structures of power and narratives of empire? Haven't we heard that constantly?
Yes.
And whiteness. So what you're saying is I'm supporting what we know is bad.
Yes. Yeah.
You're saying that I am basically taking my thumb to my nose and going to all right-thinking morons everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm outraged, of course. I mean, you know, I'm completely outraged that you would think that, but what are you going to do? Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that.
So what's new, Charles?
Oh, well, on the day that we are recording, the 24th of September, it's a day earlier than usual, it is the feast of Our Lady of Walsingham. Oh, Walsingham, the great shrine of Our Lady in Norfolk, England, the national shrine to Our Lady in that sadly ruined country. And to commemorate it being the feast of Our Lady of Walsingham, I'm wearing my Royal Stuart Society bow tie and my Society of King Charles the Martyr lapel pin.
I've never met a person who has so put so much stock in buttons and pins. It's really a delight.
Well, you got to understand that I can't really express myself, my views, as frequently or as often as I should like to, seeing that I'm not tyrannizing over ignorant students in a university or spewing drivel out on a regular radio or television program or poisoning the minds of America in a major media outlet. So since I can't do that, and since I'm not able to riot like BLM or Antifa or any of these people, I have to express my views however I can. And so this really is my way of saying,
good enough.
Well, I mean, look, we're dominated by mental munchkins. They can tell us when we get to play and when we have to go inside. They know everything. They're so smart and they're so wise and they rule us. And they're everywhere. And a lot of our fellow citizens have joined in. Never ever wonder how the Gestapo was able to find willing agents. Just for be in the wrong place without a mask. But I have a mask. Yes, I got me a mask. This is the one I wear.
Wait, oh, interesting. Where'd you get that?
I got that at the mask shop in the Bezirk. There is no need, however obscure, that someone won't come up with an answer for it and make some money. So there is a little store in the Bezirk right on the Kärntnerstrasse that sells nothing but masks. And that's where I got that.
We have the ability to sell masks through our merchandise store. And I was debating doing a Habsburg one, but I kind of didn't want to support wearing masks in general. And I didn't want to put something, I didn't want it to be a long-term thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I understand the dilemma. But, you know, what you could do is put on a mask that says not a mask on it.
That would be a lie, though.
Well, Maybe. No more of a lie than the need for the mask itself. And which, I mean, I don't know, maybe the problem is that they hadn't spent weeks and weeks telling us we shouldn't wear masks and then change the story. I always tell people, try to keep your lies in order so I can understand precisely what not to believe.
You tell that to people a lot?
Yes, I do, actually.
Sir, try to keep your lives in order, please.
So I know what to disbelieve. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you remember the famous story, or how do I tell a short version of this? I can't really, so I won't tell the story, but
That's
it's
fine.
funny. Has to do with a friend of ours, though. I'll suffice to say, she ended up having to tell someone who rang up, "Oh, I see. Well, we didn't realize you were lying. I'm very sorry. In the future, when you lie like that, would you let us know? Because otherwise we'll believe you."
Right. I've heard
Yeah,
the long version of that story.
the long version of that story. And isn't that a wonderful comeback, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We didn't know you were lying. I'm sure if we had, we'd have treated you very differently."
That's pretty sweet. That's such a sweet response.
It is. And he was like, Well, and he was lying. He was lying through his teeth. So, Anyway, so let me see. What else is new? Our Lady of Walsingham. Uh, well, autumn is definitely here. Michaelmas is coming up next week, which is one of my favorite feasts. I love Michaelmas. Autumn, of course, is definitely coming. The Kaiser Karl book is out, as you know. We talked about it last week. Of course, I still haven't actually had a copy to hold.
Yeah, I know. Some of these Bush League publishers, it's tough.
Oh,
It's tough. You would not get that sort of treatment at Tumblr House, let me tell you.
oh! I see. You would immediately send me two huge boxes of complimentary books here in Trumau. You'd say, "Damn the cost. The man needs his books."
I'd be pragmatic. I'd like to know what you would do with the books. I mean, I don't.
I have to keep warm somehow, don't I?
Oh, you wouldn't burn your own books. That would be absurd.
I was waiting for you to catch on to that one. No, I wouldn't. But there are a lot of people here who want to see it. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of curiosity about it here in the country where it's set.
Of course.
And occasionally people will say, "Well, how do you treat that issue? How do you treat this issue?" And I smile and say, "You'll have to read the book."
Nice.
But anyway, other than that, I don't know. I'm. Autumn is beginning to hit the air. The leaves are just starting to turn. I'm getting desirous of a pumpkin to carve. I'm sure I won't have one.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of Halloween questions, which I'm stashing. And one of them is any tips on how to carve a jack-o'-lantern. But we're going to stash that for now. We're going to save a lot of these good questions. But just to let everyone know, we're going to have a pretty good Halloween episode already. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Halloween episode. And, it's, again, as I've said both here and in other places, we're going into the season of nostalgia, the October country, as Ray Bradbury put it. And childhood comes popping out of one's head between now and Christmas.
Yeah.
Better days, happier days anyway, but they weren't always better. So let's keep smiling, ladies and gentlemen, because remember one other thing. Those of you who have children, you are forming for them now the memories that they'll look back on when they're adults. So do the best you can, do the best you can, even under these straitened circumstances. Have some fun with it. If The thing the kids always like is if you tell them something's an adventure. If it's poverty or, you can't do this, you can't do this. Isn't this fun? It's an adventure. We would never have done this otherwise. You'll never guess who I got that from.
Your mom.
No, she'd go along with the gag, but she wasn't the one who started it. It was my dad. He was the king of the, isn't this extraordinary? We never would have done this on our own.
I guess your mom, because she would manipulate you guys in various ways that astound me. I still can't get over the meals that she would make.
Oh, mystery dish.
Yeah. Tell everyone about that.
Well, what's not to get over? I mean, it was very simple. My brother and I were picky eaters. You see, Mother had, at the beginning of every week, she had a number of meals she wanted to make for us specifically. I mean, she cooked for all four of us, obviously, but she had a certain number of vitamins and minerals, etc., that she wanted to jam into our little growing bodies, and she would do so any way she could. The problem was that she had a couple of sons who were kind of picky eaters, and if there was anything we hated, it was the Wednesday liver and bacon. We'd take off the bacon and eat it. We wouldn't touch the liver. And Mother would not jump up and down. She wouldn't refuse. She'd just smile knowingly and take it away. But then on Saturday night, we would have mystery dish. And mystery dish was great because it was very spicy. And it came in weirdly fluorescent colors. Not yellow, but green, blue, purple, red. And it would be glop, with this bizarre color. And we'd shovel that stuff down, and Mother would sit there smiling sweetly. It was years before we found out what mystery dish was. Basically, what she would do is she would take everything, including the liver, that we hadn't eaten over the course of the week, put it through the food machine, the blender, reduce it to this glop, and then pour food color and various Tabasco and various other things into it. And then she'd serve it in bowls. So she succeeded in getting us to eat precisely the things she wanted us to eat to get the vitamins and minerals she felt we should have. And we thought it was great. Mystery dish was just wonderful. Nobody has mystery dish. We're the only ones.
I wonder how I would have reacted, because to me, I'm skeptical that I would have touched that. I mean, fluorescent blue, green, and purple glop.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what it is. It's like, oh, yeah, that's...
Yeah, exactly. Well, it always tasted good.
I guess that's the big thing. It's got to taste good.
It looked weird and tasted good. And the weirdness had an attraction to it all its own.
That's really something. I wonder if other people do that.
I don't know. I've never heard of anyone else. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you grew up with mystery dish, you let us know.
Okay. All right, time for the memes of production.
Nationalize the memes of production.
For the common good. All right. First one. All right. When the entire planet is going through a collective dark night of the soul, but you've already been through several. And a picture of a roller coaster and everyone's screaming, but there's this one guy who's like, hey, what's up?
He's the one I identify with. I think I found my soulmate finally. He's like, really?
Yeah. Been here, done that. This is
the best you got to offer? Really? Lamest apocalypse ever.
Yeah, I like that. All right. And we've got two submissions from a person with the moniker Ann Coulter's Heir from Twitter.
Ooh, yeah. A person of interest.
Interesting. All right, this first one. So several episodes ago, you used this. There was a reference to something that happened several episodes ago. So Charles is represented by Trump. I'm represented by some goofy-looking reporter. And so Trump hands the reporter a piece of paper. Reporter looks at it, and on the paper it says, "Is he a good steward of time and treasure?" The reporter has a frustrated and confused look on his face.
He does.
Hey, you
And
said that. I love that.
well, I have to admit, Vinny, I don't want to be the one to say this in public, but you do sometimes appear slightly frustrated with me and uncomprehending from time to time.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, at times I'll say things and you look at me as though, my God, the old man's off his rocker at last.
That's right.
You see, the problem is those of us who are visionaries, dreamers, pioneers of the spirit, if you will, we very often face a great deal of misunderstanding from our public, our audience, very often those closest to us. But it's something we're willing to take in hand because that's the price we pay for being who we are. All right, so I couldn't keep a straight face, but still.
All right. Gosh, the Supreme Court hearings coming up for that nominee. If I would pay someone $1,000 if they ask probably Miss Barrett, will you be a good steward of time and treasure?
That would be a very, very good question to ask. And actually, something you pointed out, we were discussing this last week, how the Republicans have flip-flopped on the issue of lame duck presidents, but so have the Democrats.
Yeah.
So everybody's flip-flopped. And basically the message is the same message given by the black African convert to the priest. When the priest asks the convert, you know the difference between good and evil? It says, oh, yes, Father, I do. Evil is when my neighbor steals my cow. Good is when I steal his.
I like that.
Well, and that is where we are, and there's no point pretending it's otherwise. So it's all partisan. But to be fair, in this particular case, there isn't a special need to have a full docket on the Supreme Court. Can you guess why?
Well, yeah, as I said, the election is going to be decided in the courts, but
precisely.
But it's not going to go to the Supreme Court. It's going to be handled by the states.
Oh, don't you kid yourself.
Why does everyone think the Supreme Court now? The election of 2000 was decided by Florida.
Was it by Florida or was it by the Supremes?
I don't recall. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was a Florida court.
I could be wrong. I don't know. It's a bad memory for me because my 40th birthday was election night. And I had friends come in from Europe, from Germany and Ireland, and from out of town. And as part of the whole birthday experience, they were going to be able to see our election. This is going to be great for you guys. Yeah, well, it was the election of 2000. So it wasn't decided by the time they got back to their native homes.
Yeah.
It was very embarrassing. So 20 years later, I'm living in a foreign land, not just having foreign guests. And all the world will be able to see how stupid we really are.
Yep.
I'm reminded of a bishop, a French bishop, who was offering the Mass. When he's seated, the altar boy hands him his mitre the wrong way. So he puts it on and the tippets are over his face. And, the altar boy wants to take it back and turn around. And the bishop goes, no, leave it alone. That way everyone can see how stupid you are.
Wow.
Yeah, so not a nice thing to say during Mass, to my way of thinking, but, I've always been kind of backward that way.
Oh, wow. All right. One last meme from Ann Coulter's Heir. So this is a conversation between a guy and his goth girlfriend. The goth girlfriend says, "Hurt me." He says, "The upside down cross you're wearing is a symbol. excuse me, the upside down cross you're wearing is called a Petrine cross. It's a Christian symbol all over the Vatican. She says, stop. He says, in fact, your whole aesthetic is basically an elaboration on Memento Mori, one of the main themes of Catholic art. That's pretty good.
That is good.
I like that the goth girlfriend says hurt me. I like that that's how that starts.
Well, that's what she would say. I mean, not that I've ever had a goth girlfriend.
Right.
Goths, when I was back in the trade, when I was on the market, as you might say, we didn't have goths.
When did they first start? Because I know.
Well, it's kind of a development from the New Romantics, I think, and that came out of punk.
Yeah.
So I don't know, late '80s, early '90s, something like that, maybe.
Yeah,
Someone who's more of an historian of this than me would probably have to tell us.
we had our own version. I remember in 2000 when I was in high school, we had the stupid Marilyn Manson people and 9 Inch Nails. You know, I forgot who else. Maybe Prodigy. That was gross.
And did you have emos?
Now, emos came a little bit later. I think now that was like when Linkin Park got big, and I think some of these other bands, not too familiar with, that came and went pretty quick.
I feel kind of elderly. I mean, the big munch when I was young were things like Dire Straits when I was in high school.
Dire Straits. Yeah, I like Dire Straits. That's
well. Now mind you, there was a lot of stuff I couldn't stand, like the Commodores, and oh gosh. Well, however, for those of you who are easy listening fans, let's take a moment of silence for the late Daryl Dragon, the captain, and the captain in Tennille.
Oh, I didn't know that. He died?
Yeah, I died about a year ago, 2 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
A great loss to the music industry.
Hmm.
And to the American aesthetic in general. I think a song like Muskrat Love spoke to who we are, a generation that had in some sense lost its bearings and was looking for something to hold on to.
That's a profound analysis, Charles.
You're very welcome. It comes with the service.
All right, time for the questions.
Oh, I was afraid you'd say that. All right, what do we got?
First question is from John.
All right.
Do we know anything about God's reason to create us? Is it possible that God may have other creations or timelines completely outside of our universe?
Well, the first part of it, no idea. God created us because he felt like it. We don't know why. He loved us from all eternity. End of story. Beyond that is all speculation. In terms of other creations, other realities, who knows? We don't. You see, all we're given to know by him directly, all we're given in Revelation, is what is essential to save our souls. So, for instance, up until the late 70s, man did not know that in all likelihood the biggest volcano in the solar system was on the planet Mars, a place called Nix Olympica. Literally, millennia went by, generation upon generation of human beings, none of whom knew about Nix Olympica. But it wasn't necessary for our salvation, so God didn't tell us.
One of the mystics postulated that we were created to replace the fallen angels.
I've certainly heard
the
that.
The number to, worship, adore, and glorify God. That there's a number out there.
I've certainly, that'll be the total of the redeemed. But, of course, by the same token, it's also speculated that one of the reasons, if not the reason, for Satan's fall is that he was shown a vision of the incarnation, and he hated the idea of God becoming one of these horrible little things. So who knows? And, of course, bearing in mind that a lot of this stuff would have happened outside of time anyway.
Okay. question from Thomas. Dear Mr. Coulombe, what do you know of Insular Christianity that was practiced in the British Isles? Also, why did Insular Christianity allow polygamy? Surely the Catholic missionaries that brought Christianity to the region would have taught that polygamy was not accepted in Christianity.
We have two separate things. Firstly, I'll deal with the second first. I don't know where the idea that they tolerated polygamy comes from. So he'd have to give me a little more information on that.
Well, what is Insular Christianity?
Insular Christianity is the Christianity of the British Isles, which came in several different waves. Because, you see, firstly, Britain was evangelized under the Romans. But then the Anglos and Saxons invaded. At about that same time, St. Patrick evangelized Ireland. So Ireland went Catholic at around the same time that the Anglo-Saxon pagans were pushing the Catholics further and further west, until finally they were isolated in Cornwall and Wales and Cumbria. But at the same time, Ireland and Scotland became Catholic. So, and then starting in the 500s, under St. Augustine of Canterbury, the Anglo-Saxons were converted to Catholicism as well. So you ended up having three different kinds of Catholics in the British Isles. You had the survivors of the old British Church. You had the sort of Hiberno-Scottish Church. And then you had the Church of the Anglo-Saxons. Now, when St. Augustine of Canterbury came to England, he made contact with the monks of Bangor in Wales, who were very much a part of the British Church. So they had some, over time in isolation, they'd acquired some interesting customs. And they absolutely refused to help evangelize the Anglo-Saxons, who they just considered murderers and thieves and robbers and not worth the time. But it wasn't a separate religion, and I don't know what the polygamy thing comes from.
Okay. Charles, are you familiar with Our Lady of All Nations? If so, could you tell us what you know about the apparition and its history?
Well, what I know is that it's a Dutch apparition. The Dutch lady it appeared to, she had these visions from 1949, 1956, or something like that, in Amsterdam. And Our Lady, she claimed, appeared to her over several times, said that she wanted to be called Our Lady, Mother of All Nations, and that she was coming to fight atheism and moral degeneracy and so on. And that the Assumption was the last Marian dogma about her life on earth that would be defined. And that eventually they would define that she is, in fact, the co-redemptrix and mediatrix of all graces. It was initially, in 1956, the bishop looked into it and said, there's nothing here. It's not supernatural. It was examined again in the 70s. And then again in 1996, and the bishop at that time said, there's nothing supernatural, it's not real, etc. And the CDF signed off on that. But then in 2003, his successor said, oh no, it's real. There is something supernatural here, worthy of veneration and so on. And the CDF signed off on that in 2005. But they altered the prayer that you're supposed to say. And yeah, gosh, I don't know where that came from. They altered the prayer where that came from. And they basically, you can believe it or not, is what it comes down to. You're free to say the prayer, you're free to do the devotions, but it's up in the air as to what it all means.
Right. Question from Daniel. Hello, I've just become a patron after enjoying your videos for several months. I have a friend who is close with Father Scanlan at Franciscan University. My friend was once very enthusiastic about the charismatic movement, but I have since gotten him on board as more of a traditionalist. He still speaks very highly of his memories of Father Scanlan, but from what I can tell, there seems to have been some red flags. I'd like Charles to please share what he knows about Father Scanlan and his opinion on his apostolate and writings.
The sad truth is, I don't know anything about him other than he's in Steubenville, and I have no opinion on his writings as a result.
Okay, the good thing about this question, it gives me an opportunity to do a plug of a book by Father Scanlan.
Book plug.
What Does God Want? A Practical Guide to Making Decisions. Coincidentally, I had to make a very, very difficult decision this past summer. And I was getting conflicting advice from different people. And I didn't know what to do. And so I started reading this book, actually. And it turned out to be the perfect book. 30 pages in, it turned what was an incredibly difficult decision into an obvious decision. And Father Scanlan asks, he gets you to ask yourself several questions about your decision relating to it. And that sort of helps you flesh it out. For example, does it encourage conversion? And there are various other things. Does it conform to God's will? And then he sort of gives you examples of difficult decisions by other people in terms of how maybe it doesn't conform to God's will. Maybe it doesn't lead to you being closer to God. So I didn't finish the book because I was kind of reading it to help with my decision, and just very quickly after reading it, 30 pages in, it sort of helped me arrive at an answer. So, but it should be mentioned, I didn't get any liberal tones. My antenna did not start giving me some alert that this guy is charismatic and this is liberal. So, and it's published by Sophia Press, who publish a lot of pretty hardcore books.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they publish Infiltration by Taylor Marshall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right?
They did.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
So, yeah. So, from my part, Father Scanlan's writings been pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm wholesale, saying all of his stuff is safe, but
blanket approbation.
Yeah.
Everything he says is perfect.
But no, but a lot of young men who, a lot of people in general, women too, have faced a lot of difficult decisions, and I highly recommend this book. It was really, it's the perfect resource for difficult decisions for Catholics. Okay. Question from Oscar. Can Charles please comment on the War of Texas Independence and the Republic of Texas?
Well, yeah, this is something I've talked about before. A lot of the early settlers, the American settlers of Texas, basically practiced fraud to get their citizenship and the right to own lands in Texas, because they had to be baptized and become Catholic and swear allegiance to Mexico. But with a lot of them, the one was as fraudulent as the other. Texas, this independent country, lasted 9 years. What it would have been like over a longer period of time, who could tell? But I'm not what you would call very favorable toward the Texan Revolution. I know that'll annoy a lot of people. Having said that, however, while I'm not favorable to the Texas Revolution, I'm very much against going after its monuments, like the Alamo. Whether we like it or not, it is part of the history of Texas. It's part of what brought us where we are. If it hadn't have been for annexing Texas to the United States, and so inheriting Texas's land claims against Mexico, we never would have had the Mexican War. Not that I don't think that was a good thing, but the point I'm making is it's all a big part of our history and should not be ignored or swept under the table or even vilified. It is what it is, what it is. I think what the original Texans did, the Texicans did, was wrong, but it happened, and we have Texas now.
I remember you. I think you took a question on this a couple years back, and one of the few things I remember about it was you talked about how Americans positioned their troops in such a way that it basically forced a war. It forced Mexico to declare war.
It did. And also bear in mind the Texas Declaration of Independence specifically attacks the Catholic faith and the Catholic priesthood.
How?
Well, I would have to look it up. But
okay.
Look up Texas Declaration of Independence. Let me see if I can find it on my phone.
It's okay. We can wait. I'll edit it out.
Yeah. It says, being the government of Mexico, it denies us the right of worshiping the Almighty according to the dictates of our own conscience by the support of a national religion calculated to promote the temporal interests of its human functionaries rather than the glory of the true and living God. You really can't expect me to endorse something like that. Well, you can, but it won't happen.
Right. Question from Dane. Colombian writer Nicolas Gomez Davila once said, quote, "The ruling class of an agrarian society is an aristocracy. That of an industrial society, an oligarchy." My question to Charles is, do you think an aristocratic society could survive in today's consumer society, or would we need to return to an agrarian-driven society?
Well, I mean, the thing is, none of these things are constructed consciously. We have the aristocracy, quote unquote, the oligarchy we have today, in a sort of chicken and egg thing with the society we have today. If the church were doing its job, if people were being converted, then we would get a much better rulership than we have. But we're not, we don't.
What's the difference between an aristocracy and an oligarchy?
The difference is that the aristocracy attempts to rule for the common good, the oligarchy for its own good. Noblesse oblige, the sense of obligation to your subjects, which an oligarchy never has, and an aristocracy does.
Well, that's a theory behind it.
It's a fact. I mean, we were talking earlier, or in the last program, I guess, in the pre-show, about the old rich versus the new. They still had bits and pieces of that idea, which is precisely why when they got money, they went to philanthropy.
Because philanthropy is a gateway to power.
Yeah, I know, and altruism should always be rewarded. Okay.
All right. All right, another question from Dane. Are there any American Loyalist historical sites that we could visit?
Oh boy, lots and lots and lots. Up and down the 13 colonies. Obviously, I can't mention them all, but I can mention a very, very few per colony. Are you ready? Can you dig it?
Ready.
All right. We start in New Hampshire. The Wentworth House, which is now an old age home, and it's only the front part where the Royal Governor Wentworth lived. And St. John's Episcopal Church, which was the royal church of the governors. It has Queen Anne Silver and so forth. In Massachusetts, the old State House, which was the Province House, or the Colony House, rather, where the colonial legislature met. Shirley Place, where the royal governor Governor Shirley lived, out in Roxbury. There are a number of Loyalist sites, the Ruggles Mansion, places like that, scattered around Boston. Then, and of course, in Cambridge, you've got Tory Row, Brattle Street, all those old houses were built by Loyalists. Rhode Island, you've got in Newport Trinity Church, and the Wanton House, where Governor Wanton lived. In Connecticut, well, virtually every older Episcopal church in New England was Loyalist, the ones that were around then. New York, you've got a lot of sites, the Phillips House, Johnson Hall, Johnson Hall and Fort Johnson, out in the Mohawk Valley. In New Jersey, you've got the Proprietary House in Perth Amboy, which was the residence of William Franklin, the last royal governor. Oh, I mean, I could go on and on and on.
The resource to mention for this is we have this on the Tumbler House website, Royal Places in America. It's a list that you compiled, and it goes by state. To find this page, the easiest thing to do is just Google Royal Places in America. And the Tumbler House result is about 5 down. And it says Royal Places in America - Tumbler House. And we've got, it looks like maybe 500 different links and for different sites, every single state.
Yep. So knock yourself out. Go on a trip.
All right. Oh, we have a short episode today. We're already at the last question, Charles.
Oh boy. Excellent. Well, people have been complaining we're going too long, so this is a way to give them what they want.
That's true. That's actually true. All right. Question from Alex.
Okay.
What are Charles's thoughts on the legitimate heir to the French monarchy? I was thinking that Louis the 20th was the legitimate heir, but my friends are telling me that he is not, because he's only matrilineally Bourbon, and they say that's forbidden by Salic law. They do not support the Orleanist or Bonapartist claimants either, though. So none of us know who the legitimate heir is. Who does Charles think it could be?
Well, firstly, he thinks it's Louis the 20th.
Does he?
He doesn't buy the matrilineal bit, because Isabella II married a Bourbon. I don't buy it.
So matrilineal means connected through the
it goes
female
to the mother.
line.
Yeah. Which they did not have under Salic law, either France or Spain, when the Bourbon took over Spain. Now, prior to that, they did, which is why Queen Isabella was queen. And then Ferdinand VII altered the succession so that his daughter would inherit instead of his brother. And that was the start of the Carlist Wars. But no, it's Louis the 20th.
You make it sound so simple. I know there's going to be all these different nuanced contradictions in comments that are going to come out.
There will be, and you have to make a solemn oath to stay awake as you read through them.
Wow, that's not very nice. That's not very Christian.
What? Wishing that you would stay awake while reading through stuff? How is that unchristian?
It's implying that they're going to be incorrect, and not only incorrect but boring.
Things can be terribly correct and also be boring. Now, weren't you complaining about how you've had to restructure your sleep methods, your sleep patterns?
Yeah.
That's going to lead to your falling asleep over a lot of things if they aren't totally gripping. It doesn't mean that the people who are responsible for the material that sends you off to slumberland are evil. It's really you. You're going to be too fatigued to do anything useful.
All right, if you're gonna mess around, I'll let you. I'll let you mess
What?
around.
Say, now hold on there, boy. What do you mean mess around? Look, you made it very clear that your sleeping habits have been disrupted. Now, if I gave you any material to read that was, shall we say, not really exciting, you'd very likely pass out.
But you weren't personalizing it like that. You were speaking universally. That
No, I wasn't.
everyone in the world would have a homogenous reaction to these comments, and that would be bored.
No, some people will stay awake, especially the ones who make the comments. It's not universal. If it were universal, they'd pass out themselves before they made them.
All right, that's fine.
I think you've got issues here. I really do.
That's okay. Well, pray for me, Charles.
Oh yes. Bless your heart. No, this is something people feel very, very strongly about. You know, recently, well, the old Count of Paris, who was the Orleanist claimant, died a year ago or something like that. Very strange thing. About a month before he died, he attempted to consecrate France to the Sacred Heart, which, not being the rightful king, of course, he couldn't, but he thought he was, so he did his best. But he died a month later, the very day that he was going to go to a mass commemorating Louis XVI. He died instead. And now his son has taken off all the information about the consecration from their website. It's gotten on the memory hole. I really would like to see Louis the 20th make that consecration, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
But apart from that, I think we've really got to try to step up to the plate in terms of making modern television as enjoyable as that of the early 80s.
Okay, how do we do that?
I don't know. But it's got to be done.
Early 80s?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Simon and Simon. Matlock, Murder, She Wrote.
Matlock was early 80s?
Well, mid 80s, but Magnum PI.
Okay.
Yeah. It was sort of a silver age.
I didn't know you had such a fondness of the early 80s for television.
Bah, in retrospect, of course, everything before looks better than what we have now. Although there are a couple of shows today I still like.
What shows?
I haven't seen it in years now, but NCIS.
Okay. And you watched Downton Abbey. I haven't watched this show yet.
Yeah, I like Downton Abbey. Well, I mean, PBS doesn't count, but only network programming counts.
Oh.
CBS, ABC, NBC. You know what those letters stand for?
No idea.
CBS.
I forgot.
Columbia Broadcasting System.
Oh, that's right.
NBC.
National Broadcasting Company?
ABC.
American Broadcasting Company.
CBC.
There is no You mean there is no CBC. Oh, what? Yeah, Canadian Broadcasting Company?
BBC.
Yeah, British Broadcasting Company.
Wow.
Yeah.
LABC.
I don't think that. I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it does. The Los Angeles Breakfast Club. I remember.
Oh, okay. You jumped over. Okay.
Yeah, well, I figured you needed, a little stimulus, other than financial.
We all need a little financial stimulus, Charles.
And we're all going to get it, too. Well, anyway, listen, this has been fun. It's been short. Nobody can complain we were too long this time.
Yeah. People get defensive of you. We had a long one, and you're a little bit sleepy time, and someone said, "Oh, you have to do it under an hour." So there you go.
Careful what you ask for, gang. You'll get it. All right. Well, on behalf of everybody working in the Tumblr House Tower, I just want you to know, boss, that we're all glad you didn't succumb to the blandishments and give Oswald a job.
How can you speak for everybody?
Because I spoke to them before the show. We did a Zoom conference.
All right.
So we all thank you. I said, is there anyone here who really wants that worthless dog working with them? And they all said no, they wouldn't want any worthless dog working with them. Oswald or anyone else. So
you guys are very uncharitable.
Uncharitable? I give to the March of Dimes.
Oh, so that absolves this action?
It makes me charitable. Oh, gosh. Anyway, well, other than that, there's not much to say. But there is a question I could ask you.
Yes.
What is it if it's on Monday?
Then it's off the menu.
Yeah, okay. But what if you save a soul?
It might be your own. See you next time.
Void were prohibited. See you next time.